Boing, boing, boom, boom, bleh. Boing, boing, boom, boom, bleh. No, I didn't lose my marbles just yet. It's just that animation works in beats, and so does music. So if I can sing the timing, then I can draw the timing. And that's exactly what we're going to try and do in this video with a classic ball bounce, using the sound that I have in my head for it. Welcome back to Unprompted Frames. This is the first episode of a new series, Learn Out Loud. If you're new to this channel, please do the usuals, it would be greatly appreciated. As you can see, I already have ToonSquid open and I've imported my sound file, so let's give it a play. Boing, boing, boom, boom, bleh. Boing, boing, boom, boom, bleh. Okay, that's all looking good. So the next thing I like to do is change the background color to something like a sky blue, so it's just easier on the eye. And then I selected a vector brush and just adjusting a brush size, I'm drawing a straight line in a new layer called ground. So this is our ground plane. And then I went ahead, created another layer, and this would be my reference layer. And all I want to do here is just draw some dots. So I'm finding the spikes in the waveform and then putting down a dot. So that essentially gives me the timing for my animation. Once that is done, I'm just filling the gaps with my spacing. So this is where I'm establishing a path for the ball to travel. So roughly the ball bounces, and each time it bounces, the distance it travels reduces. So this is why you will have seen my dots are slightly closer to one another as I move forward in the animation. Also worth mentioning is that I'm using a 24 FPS scene and I'm using a combination of ones and twos. I tend to always start with twos and then split the frames to ones where I think it makes more sense. That's almost done, so let's give this a playback and see how it's looking. So there are a few choppy frames that needs fixing, so I'll go ahead and change some of these back to ones where I have the twos and just add an extra in between to smooth out certain areas. Okay, so let's test this again. Okay, that's much smoother, so we seem to have the timing as well as the trajectory of our ball. So that's given me enough information. So I'm now adding a new layer for the ball, and I shall start drawing. So once again, I'm using a vector brush, drawing a simple circle, and then also these two curves to make it look a bit like a basketball. I'm also putting down the color in the same layer, so that makes it easy for me to just copy paste the ball in different frames and adjust the shape using the perspective. I'm also using the perspective as an effect. This is something that you can do in ToonSquid, um, and by doing so you can simply disable the effect if you don't like it anymore. It's a non-destructive way of doing things. So as the ball gets closer to the ground, it just stretches a bit, and then it hits the ground and then squashes and then bounces back, and that frame again, the bounce frame has to be a bit stretched before it settles back into its own shape in midair. So that's the first bounce done, and we're about to just do the second bounce. So it's going to get a bit repetitive here, so I'm going to speed this up even more and come back to the bit where we start testing. Okay, that's almost done, so let's give it a test. So I seem to have a little bit of problem with spacing in some places, so I'm just going to adjust those once again. Another thing to think about is the rotation. Because we have those two curves, those have to be different in every frame, so it needs to have either a forward spin or a backward spin depending on how it was released. So that's what I'm doing here, and also testing back and forth to see it's looking good. So after those tweaks, this is the final result that I have. Boink boink boom boom bleh. Boink boink boom boom bleh. Boink boink boom boom bleh. Now that was a simple animation, but I hope it illustrated the point that sound beats could be used as a starting point for any rhythmic animation. Think about a pendulum swing. Zing, zang, zing, zang. Now you could argue that one could record a video of them swishing their hand and use that as a reference to your animation. And you'd be right, you could absolutely do that. But I'm pretty sure for some complex animations, it's not always possible to get a video reference. In that case, you could think about how that complex animation would sound in your head. And those sound beats will serve you with a starting point by giving you the timing for your animation. Let me know in the comments what you think about this video. If you ever do any complex animations using this technique, do let me know in the comments because I would love to see. If not, comment anyway because it's always nice and I'll always reply to your comments and questions. That is all for this episode, but I will come back soon with another one. Until then, it's goodbye. Keep animating and stay Unprompted.